This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. The civic elections are fast upon us. I think it's actually 253 days from now. And no sooner had we booked today's guest, who you'll meet momentarily, then suddenly the story gets leaked out that the provincial government is thinking of changing the rules. Instead of every 3 years, municipal and civic elections might be every 4 years. That would put it in line with every other province in the Dominion, but it's not making a lot of people happy. We'll probably get around to that element of the conversation, but the biggest element is how to get the vote out. We have a terrible track record here in the most benign and loveliest and safest country on earth, where you would think we would bow down and kiss the ground and rush to vote. Last federal elections hovering in the 60% range. And civic is probably worse, our guest will tell us. Our guest is Mike Andruff, and he has created a new organization called Vancouver Decides 2014. And Mike, before you even explain that, I know you're kind of a guy who's civically involved. Tell us how you first got involved struggling with the mayor and something he and council were trying to do in Dunbar.
Well, thank you, David. Yes, it was a matter of spot zoning issue that the affordable housing plan had just been launched. The characteristics involving spot zoning were outlined in the paper.
Yep.
We as residents read it and recognized we were a direct target in a location where they were planning to do a private seniors housing complex.
Yes.
Now, that was welcomed by the community,
Yep.
but not in the fashion that they were hoping to build.
Oh.
So we started doing our homework, and we started organizing our community. And you know, in the process, I learned that there were a lot of funny things going on, and we weren't happy with the way we were being treated. Initially, we were all NIMBYs. You know, there was a lot of spin directed at us, suggesting that we were intolerant and not happy to change. We made it very evident through our social media campaigns and our blog, dunbarrevision.com, that no, in fact, we were on side. But the process seemed to be a bit flawed.
And the process largely was ignoring the community, was largely not asking anybody what they thought.
Exactly. They were wanting to do this development in a single-family housing zoned area,
Yes.
which had immediate neighbors on all sides wondering, well, what's that going to mean for me?
Okay.
And you have to put yourself in their shoes to understand what that felt like. In fact, one neighbor put their house on the market, sold it, and they're going to be moving from a great neighborhood because of this threat.
Okay.
So that's the
So what was the threat? I mean, you guys did find a compromise in time.
Yes, the threat was they wanted to build 7 stories high.
Ah. Okay.
We were tolerant for 4 stories, but in the commercial area of Dunbar.
Yes.
This was outside the commercial area, so I think there was even the sense that, yeah, okay, we would probably live
Where
with
was it? I know the area. Where was it?
It was between 31st and 30th Avenue on the east side of Dunbar Street.
Okay.
There's 6 houses there, and they were going to take them down and build this monster. And you know, seniors housing is a good thing. We could all stand for more seniors housing. But the way they were doing it was square peg round hole, and by all intents and purposes, the city seemed to be on side. And you know, we were down talking to Bill Good with Peter Gaskill, the president of Pacific Arbor, and we were stating our case. And the more we stated our case, I think, the more they could see that we had a rational approach that we were taking. But it was then that I realized, you know, something's not right with the way things are running with the city.
Yeah, sometimes the city just does what it darn well pleases and doesn't ask anybody.
There's this oxymoron we're using called affordable housing. David, this is Vancouver.
Yes.
There isn't any affordable housing in Vancouver. I hate to
None,
break
zero,
it on this
zero, yes.
telecast.
Yeah.
But so we started examining things, and I said to my cohort who we're working with, and by the way, there's nothing like working with your neighbors on something that makes sense, that you all believe in. Man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And I thought at that time we had to take it one step further. After we did the Pacific Arbor matter, that we had to keep moving. And we had to keep moving on a broader context.
Okay, before you move, just give me the resolution. So Pacific Arbor did find a home. Is it at that site or somewhere else? Where is it now?
They have 4 sites, and I understood that they assembled another site elsewhere, and I'm not privy to that information.
Oh, okay.
But they had put for sale signs up on their properties.
Yes.
They're now some $900,000 below what they paid for them, listed for $900 below what they had, the 2 end properties, north end properties of the block. And
but this senior citizens development will occur?
No.
Not at all?
No, because Pacific Arbor drew a line in the sand that said, we need the 7 stories or it's not commercially sensible for us.
Oh.
The city said they were not prepared to approve 7 floors. And at that point, the developer decided it was a no-go condition.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay.
Well, it was for seniors housing, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So now you say you want to go on, and one of the things you're going on with is tackling this thorny subject of why don't Canadians vote? Yeah. You have some simple answers for why Canadians don't vote? I mean, I have a couple, but they're not very pleasant, to be honest.
How about this one? I don't have enough time.
Oh, yeah.
Or I forgot. Or how about this one? I couldn't understand the issues. Those are the principal reasons. And also to this one, for the younger sect, this is the beginning voter. I don't like your system whatsoever. I won't vote.
Yeah.
I don't like the way it works. I don't like that my vote doesn't count, and therefore I'm opting out.
Yeah, I think that's a dreadful response, and I think that even if one despairs of the way the system works, until we have another one, this is the one we got.
We got to work it.
You got to work it as best you can, right? We got to do something.
Yeah.
And voting is this privilege, and and we won't be the first people to point out that hundreds of thousands of people died in some wars for the privilege of a democratic process, which may not feel very democratic, but it's the one we got.
David, we have to hold on to that and just look at your daily newspaper for the Ukraine and look at what they're going through right now. My goodness, we have so much here, and we're going to forsake that. And all those young daughters and sons who went off to war to fight for our freedom, and we're going to forsake them.
Yeah, and I mean, we still lose Canadians somewhere in the world, practically daily, in some conflict, because war has never stopped. Yeah. It's not like after the Second World War, everything got peaceful. Yeah. So, Vancouver Decides 2014.org. What is it, and how are you making it rock and roll?
Well, it's a blog site, a WordPress blog site, and it's intended to be a communication medium.
Yes.
I have a byline on it that says, who is fit to run the city? And so I critically evaluate civic politics and what works and what doesn't. But most importantly, I had an epiphany that was this thing called the Vancouver Decides 2014 Voting Initiative.
Yes.
And that's a very important thing to me. And what it's all about, David, it's entering the laboratory of the human condition and making social change. And social change by asking people to engage in the voting process.
Now check this out. The federal government only recently, this is since you and I spoke, since we agreed we'd do this program, the federal government came out with a press release, which is somewhere in this file, that says we're giving up on our Get Out the Vote campaign. We're saying we've run a Get Out the Vote campaign for a couple of rounds, and it hasn't done anything.
In fact, that's a political statement.
Okay.
The reality is, the social scientists would say, is very important.
Yes.
And it's common sense, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
If you and I are promoting voting today here on this program, and people say, you're kidding, I didn't realize these facts and these figures, wouldn't they engage?
Well, let's look at some simple facts. MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, has had an enormous grassroots impact on Canadian society and on American society. And somebody has had an enormous impact on our smoking habits.
Yes.
We've changed public policy and public behavior, right? So we could change voting, but how are you going to do it?
Social behavior can be changed, and the way you do it is this way. You state what it is you want, and don't be fuzzy about it. Be very direct, and that's why I say in the voting initiative, I'm aiming, or the initiative is aiming at 209,440 voters.
That's in Vancouver.
In Vancouver.
Yes.
Now, recognize this is happening throughout the province, so we're going to try and engage the rest of the province, and I'd like to share with you how we're going to do that in a minute. But then you have to have vital behaviors to accomplish a goal.
But wait a sec, your particular goal, the number you quoted, 209 or whatever thousand, represents 50
plus one.
50% plus one of the vote.
Because
in the last election, what happened?
Last election, I think in total votes were some 34% total votes cast. Now listen to this. The mayor got 77,000 votes.
Yes.
Now, let's just ponder this thought. With 77,000 votes, the mayor can decide transit decisions that cost billions of dollars, can operate a $1.2 billion budget.
Yes,
and look at it this way, too. Like, he is considered the figurehead of all Lower Mainland, but there are only 400,000 eligible voters in Vancouver.
So he got less than 25%.
He had less than 19%. Less than 1 in 5 voters gave him the mandate.
What did the Kerry Jangs and the Andrew Reimers get?
Less. He was the top polling.
So we're putting in even backbenchers in the 12%.
Yes.
Well, that's almost criminal.
It's horrendous, as I'd like to say.
Yeah.
So let's do something about that. And I cast no dispersions against the sitting politicians of the day, none at all. But don't you just think it makes common sense if we have a majority of the people casting the ballot, you have a more pluralistic outcome, and everybody's happier?
What are we supposed to do in a community like this where we are told by the current administration that the issues are bike lanes and whether or not marijuana dispensaries get busted? And I mean, the issues as presented by the City of Vancouver at the moment, in my opinion, are frivolous and downright silly.
That's where the blog, Who is Fit to Run the City, really comes into play, because we address all of these topics. When something looks silly, we say so. And if people are trying to get themselves informed as to how they should vote, they can go to a blog like Vancouver Decides 2014. They can go to cityhallwatch.com, which is an excellent blog on learning about your city. They can read the paper, they can watch your show. And it all makes sense after that. Yeah,
we hope so. We're going to take a break. Okay, Mike Andruff is our guest. VancouverDecides2014.org is his site. Our site is davidberner.com. We welcome your thoughts, comments, dispersions, whatever you may send us. Birthday greetings. I forgot to sing happy birthday in 3 different languages to you. It was your birthday yesterday.
It was.
How about Mandarin, Julie Shan?
Thank you very much.
Okay. And what else am I saying? Oh, yes, and I'm saying this is the opportunity for the lovely people who sponsor our show to say hello here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Back in just a moment. This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. You have the faintest idea for whom you might vote come November of this year? Well, the races aren't quite on. No doubt the parties are gathering in little rooms somewhere and collecting little packets of money, big packets of money. But what are the issues? And what are the issues that might get you to actually get off your duff, leave the hockey game, and go cast your ballot? It's really quite discouraging when you walk into a local high school building or a church or whatever the case may be and see that there's more adjudicators, more people who are taking your ballot than there are people casting ballots. Mike Andruff wants to change all that and get people out voting. A true Democrat, Vancouver Decides 2014. Let me say up front that we cannot do without people like you, Mike. We have to have citizens who value the import of citizenship. This is not something, citizenship in a country like Canada is not something to be taken for granted.
Not at all, no. And so we have to stand up. Eventually, we have to stand up and do something.
And do something.
And that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
It takes courage, but it also takes courage for people to follow.
And it takes courage for people to follow, exactly. So you passed on to me a wonderful little YouTube video, and we're going to show a piece of that now. And what is it called? The first
dancing guy.
The dancing guy. Here's the dancing guy demonstrating the principle of the first follower.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't
Mike
stand
Andruff,
out.
as we see that crowd gathering, and as this thing goes on, eventually there's a giant crowd all dancing and carrying on. I love what the narrator said almost in the first beat, and that is that the leader welcomes that first follower on an equal basis, because when you start to do something like VancouverDecides2014.org, you're not just looking for people to join in, you're looking for people who are even better than you, right? You're looking for people with more ideas, with more energy, who are going to be thinking outside of your frame of thinking.
And David, that's already happened. In New Westminster, there was a beautiful tweet sent to me or to the Twitter sphere, and it's to have public companies put on their envelopes that they mail their bills in a reminder that there's an election on November the 15th, and please vote. It's a beautiful thing, and someone passed that along. I posted it all over my blog.
Wow.
And I'm also engaging some very good corporate organizations, including the Shaw organization, to consider this. And so we might have our mail with extra messaging as we approach the election. So that's just one of the initiatives.
I cannot remember anybody doing that.
Just an idea.
I can't remember the utilities or whomever putting out, and now so much of it is paperless. It's but even e-billing. But why not vote?
Yeah. Also, too, we're asking them to include a reminder in their email signatures that they send to customers should they not be using the mail anymore. So we're trying to cover the nuance.
So how are you doing that? For example, have you come? You say that Shaw might be getting on board. How have you approached?
I've directly called them and emailed. And I'm just that guy out in the field trying to get for other individuals to come onto the dance field. And I'm getting response. I've had 2 organizations call me back. We're having more meetings in the weeks ahead.
And the beautiful thing is, as you draw more people into your sphere, someone is going to be close to someone up here in the tower at Shaw, and they can make an important phone call.
We certainly hope so.
Yeah.
We certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Because it's a worthy cause.
I think that's great. That's a marvelous idea. What, any other beauties like that? Who else besides people like Shaw and the utilities and so on?
Well, I don't want to mention names at this point because I don't want to have people painted into corners. But I do want to point out, too, the other thing about our voting initiative, vital behavior is information. And I want to just mention the voting pamphlet from Oregon.
Yes.
Oregon is a direct democracy kind of place. It's a, we talked about a 30% turnout.
Yeah.
They held an inquiry when they got an 85.7% turnout for an election. It was too low. And so what they do is they have this voter pamphlet that outlines all the candidates, all the issues. When they analyze the issues, they have 2 people in favor, 2 people against, and a narrator who is impartial, who describes what the initiative is going to be. And the voter gets this 8 weeks before they have to vote. And this is something I'd like to promote on Vancouver Decides 2014.
I'm sitting here thinking of targets, and I'm thinking there's a cement company down on Granville Island that's always been good about having those big cement trucks. Yeah, but they're good. They've been good about putting, for children's causes and so on, and for cancer causes. It would be wonderful to have them chase them.
Something else I want to mention about the envelope idea.
Yes.
This isn't just for Vancouver. This is the entire province on the same day.
Yes, of course.
So it's a ubiquitous message to all of us in the province.
Don't use big words till I have a chance to look them up.
Sorry.
Just kidding. Yeah, it's a message for the whole province.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, let me just slightly veer off and go back to one of the things I raised right in my opening monologue, and that is this peculiarity that now there's been some sort of planted leak that the province is considering changing the civic votes to every 4 years. Now, the people who released this info are, of course, decrying it and saying that it plays into more corruption. It plays, but the city people, the civic people might say, look, the first year you're just trying to figure out where your chair is at City Hall. Second year you can do a couple of things, and then third year you're platforming to be reelected. What do you make of that argument?
C'est un désastre.
Yes.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
It is not a wise decision, and we were all asked, and I hope everybody did comply with a letter to the Premier and Suzanne Anton to say, stop the presses, let's reverse this idea. There are many more reforms that we could be doing, like, for example, financing of campaigns. Why aren't we reforming that? We have people talk about they'd like to see reforms, but they're not prepared to take the first step and say we won't accept donations from corporations and unions. So, this is politics, David.
Yeah.
And this is pure politics being played in regard to this issue. I personally think it's the wrong way to go because we can see a council with an extended mandate has a lot of time to tinker.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to be a happy place.
And tinkering is not always good for everybody. Okay, we just have a couple minutes left, Mike. So tell me how you plan to step up as we get closer to November, because obviously, this is March is one thing, but by June you're in another world.
Yeah. We need to get critical mass, and we need to get it quickly. As you mentioned at the outset, day 253, we don't have a lot of days left.
Yeah.
So, and this is something I extol in my blog is please follow me, and or at least the Vancouver Initiative, more importantly, and spread the word. We have this beautiful social media instrument, and it's a dynamic instrument and very effective. We proved that with the Dunbar revision experience. So the other thing too is we need to have people buy in. We need more people on the field, and this is a direct appeal. And I thank you for that, by the way.
On a different issue, I created a badge that we gave out to hundreds of, and I just gave out some recently at an event that says, I support recovery and I vote. And perhaps if you can find a couple of bucks, a badge that says, I vote because I can,
Yes.
or I vote because I must.
I like the idea.
Yeah, let's get some people saying
I
it in
want
public
to
a lot.
also engage the universities.
Yes.
We need to get to the university campuses, recognize
Good
they
for
come
you.
from all over the province, but we do need to talk to them. And
How about all that energy? How about those kids?
Absolutely.
Bursting with energy and looking for some outlet other than the lacrosse field.
Yeah.
Mike Andruff, good luck.
Thank
Keep
you
us
very
posted.
much. I will.
Marvelous stuff. Okay, that's it, kids. We're out of here for the moment. Now, the next couple of weeks, for one reason or another, we have to run repeat shows. I can't remember what all the reasons are, but there are some reasons rather. So I think next week we're rerunning the episode with Harry Baines about the need for community courts. Oddly enough, only this morning there was a piece in the paper about the Vancouver Community Court is not really measuring up to the hopes we had for it. However, we'll see. I hope you will join us for those next two shows, and then we have a terrific lineup of guests already organized. Thanks for being with us, and we appreciate your joining us here tonight on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Good evening.